first year attending Andrew Womack Camp meeting at Freedom Christian Center was in 2011. I was about 9 months clean and sober, and I didn't understand a whole lot, but I did end up going back in 2012 and again in 2013, and man, I started eyeballing that CBC tent that was over there. And first couple years of getting sober was just learning how to live out in society legally, and being a convicted felon and trying to get a job was a little bit difficult. It left me a whole lot of time to dive into God's Word and get out there and give back to community, learn how to serve others. But in 2014, I walked by the CBC tent at camp meeting, and I had a conversation with Ken and Patsy, and looking at the finances and stuff. Man, my heart wanted to go to college because I was a high school dropout. I actually, got my high school equivalency, but school was not what I was interested in my teens. But I had a hunger to go to Charis Bible College, and I didn't know it at the time, but a friend of mine called me up and she says, "Hey, are you going to those free classes at CBC?" And I said I wasn't planning on it. She says, "I really think that you ought to go." And I said, okay. So I went to those 4 days of classes, and Thursday afternoon after the classes, Ken Brown called me into his office and asked me what I thought of the classes, and I told him. And they had heard a little bit of my testimony, I believe, but Ken says, "Well, are you coming back on Monday?" And man, inside me, I'm thinking, this guy's gonna let me come back on Monday? Does he know who I am? And you know what? God knows who I am, and that was enough, because what Ken told me was that he believed in the power of God, and he asked me if I believed in the power of prayer. And you see, my mind said yes, because I thought this guy's gonna let me come back, but my heart wasn't quite there yet, because I hadn't gotten all the truth yet. But you better believe that Ken prayed with me, and he told me to not quit praying in the Spirit, that he believed God was calling me here, and he believed that God was going to come up with the finances. When I was going out of town that particular weekend to a convention, I was still believing God for finances, but I was really excited about being able to sit in on the classes for as long as I had. And I ended up riding back from Raleigh, North Carolina with somebody that was just totally random. He's a good friend of mine, but it wasn't planned for me to ride back with him. So as I was riding back, he just questioned me. He says, "What's this I hear about you going to Bible college?" And I said, "Well, as of tomorrow, I might not be." But I got all excited and telling him about what I had learned, and he started asking me how much it was. So there was my first month's tuition, and so I was able to come in that Monday and give that to him. And from that moment on, the finances just continued to come in. Like, I had sold programs, and I was able to give that money, and then I'd come in and I would be told that somebody anonymously paid my tuition for the next month, and before I knew it, I had finished my whole first year at Charis Bible College. And from a girl that had left high school and didn't have any thoughts of ever completing anything, there I was, the desire of my heart, wondering how am I ever going to get to a point where I'm able to talk about God. And here I was finishing my first year of Bible college, and everything that I had learned and able to apply in my own life was just growing at an exponential force. It was that summer that just this random couple that had heard me give a 20-minute talk of my testimony and what God was doing in my life. This random couple calls me and asked me to come to dinner with them in the middle of the summer, and I thought, well, this is weird, but I'll go. And
So I went, and they asked me if I was going back to Charis Bible College in September, and I said, yeah, I plan on it. And they says, well, good. They says, but we want to pay your tuition for your second year because we want you learning all that you can, and we don't want you having to pay any attention to finances. So there, my whole second year was paid by this couple that I barely knew, and I know that it was God providing it. So finances had nothing to where it stopped me from graduating at Charis Bible College. Even I remember being at a gas pump during my first year at CBC, and I'm trying to calculate the number of miles it takes from Charis to my house per gallon, and just trying to figure out the rest of the week, $40 in a bank account, can I use 12 in gas and that kind of thing. And I'm standing at the pump calculating all this stuff in my head. Do I have enough? What can I put in? How much can I put in? And standing at that pump, the Lord just spoke to me. He says, have you learned anything yet? And so I got really excited, and I thought, okay, Lord, I'm going to take you at your word. And I filled my gas tank up. And do you know that day the spirit of poverty broke off of me, and that I have never, ever not filled my gas tank up, not one time. And that same day that I filled my gas tank up at that gas pump leaving school, somebody gave me a $50 gift card. And it's one of those moments where you go, oh, you are there and you do know my name. And so anyway, just the financial part, what can seem like a burden is actually God's way of teaching that He is the source, and that anything that He's called me to do, He's equipped me to do. He's just not going to show it to me all at one time. So I ended up going back a third year, and even my third year I had support with tuition. So I became a third-year graduate at CBC, and what a gift that is. It just keeps giving. It just keeps giving, and it just keeps giving.